Most people think ignoring reality leads to disaster. They imagine some dramatic moment where everything falls apart. That's not how it usually works. Ignoring reality doesn't destroy your life overnight. It slowly limits what your life can become. Listen closely. The cost isn't sudden failure. The cost is time, progress, and eventually, choice. And that's why most people miss it. Ignoring reality doesn't look reckless, it looks reasonable. It looks like telling yourself you'll deal with something later. It looks like pushing discomfort out of focus. It looks like saying, "I'll fix this once things calm down." Nothing breaks. Nothing demands immediate attention. Life just keeps going, mostly the same. Here's what actually happens when you ignore reality. The situation does not change. You do. Your margin for error shrinks. You have less energy to work with, less patience, less flexibility. Not because life is punishing you, but because facts don't adjust to explanations. If something is true, it stays true whether you acknowledge it or not. Think about health. Most problems don't start with pain. They start with small signals people brush off. Poor sleep that becomes normal, low energy that's blamed on age, weight gain that's explained away as stress. Nothing feels urgent until it is. By the time action feels unavoidable, the options are narrower. What could have been adjusted easily now requires more effort, more discipline, and more sacrifice. The cost wasn't the moment you ignored the signal. The cost was everything that became harder afterward. The same thing happens with money. People don't usually make one catastrophic financial decision. They make a series of small avoidances. They don't check balances. They delay understanding where their money actually goes. They rely on vague impressions instead of numbers. Eventually, clarity arrives, but it arrives late. When it does, the choices are fewer, less room to move, less time to recover. Avoiding reality didn't remove the problem. It removed options. This pattern shows up at work too. People stay in roles that quietly drain them. They tell themselves it's temporary. They convince themselves it's practical. Years pass. Skills stagnate, confidence erodes, mobility decreases. By the time dissatisfaction becomes undeniable, the exit is harder than it would have been earlier. Not impossible, but heavier. Most people don't notice this happening because the change is gradual. Nothing feels wrong enough to act on. Nothing demands honesty all at once. Life just starts to feel tighter. Less room to move, less excitement, less possibility. People describe this as being stuck, but they can't point to a single reason why they feel stuck. That's because the cost didn't arrive in one moment. It accumulated over time. This is where time becomes the real multiplier. Not because time is running out in a dramatic sense, but because time amplifies patterns. Ignoring something for a month is manageable. Ignoring it for a year is costly. Ignoring it for 5 years reshapes your life. The longer reality goes unacknowledged, the more effort it takes to change, and the fewer paths remain. Time doesn't punish, it compounds. This is also why effort alone doesn't fix the problem. Many people work hard while avoiding clarity. They stay busy, they stay occupied, they stay in motion. But effort aimed at the wrong picture of reality doesn't move you forward, it just exhausts you. You can run faster and still stay lost. When people say they've tried everything, what they really mean is they've tried acting without seeing clearly. This is how ignoring reality costs success, not because you weren't motivated, not because you lacked discipline, but because progress depends on accuracy. If your understanding of the situation is off, even slightly, your actions compound in the wrong direction. You spend energy, but it doesn't stack. Over time, something deeper starts to erode: self-trust. When effort keeps failing, people stop believing their judgment, they hesitate more, they second-guess decisions. Eventually, they lower expectations, they aim smaller, they settle sooner, they stop believing change will pay off. Not because they don't care, but because repeated misalignment teaches them not to expect results. This is one of the most expensive costs of ignoring reality: not failure, not collapse, but quiet resignation. People don't give up, they adjust life downward. And that adjustment provides the brain with more comfort because it reduces disappointment. This is what it means when life slowly becomes smaller. Not fewer years, fewer choices, not less effort, less payoff. Not less activity, less direction. People don't notice the narrowing while it's happening. They notice it years later when options that once existed no longer do. This isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to clarify something important. Ignoring reality isn't neutral, it's a trade-off. You trade clarity now for comfort now, and you pay later with fewer choices later. That trade happens whether you intend it or not. Here's the part most people misunderstand. Doing more doesn't solve this. Moving faster doesn't solve this. Trying harder doesn't solve this. If you don't see clearly, more effort just locks in the same patterns. Clarity doesn't slow progress. It prevents wasted years. That's why this series hasn't talked about goals yet, or ambition, or big changes. Those come later. Before any of that matters, you need to learn how to see what's actually happening. Because once you see clearly, the next steps stop feeling forced. In the next lesson, we'll look at why people miss reality in the first place, not because they're dishonest, but because attention, habit, and familiarity quietly shape what they notice and what they ignore. Clarity isn't automatic, but it is learnable. And that's where we go next.